Welcome to the 28th Jackie's Proof Animals Have Souls and Psychics show, produced through Passionate World Talk Radio, a subsidiary of Global Media Network. My website is Jackie, Jackie, joneshunt.com. If you listened to my show before, you'll know I'm a psychical researcher, historian of spirituality, lecturer, vegetarian, and author of 3 books, Proof Animals Have Souls, 500 Plus Celebrities Go Vegetarian, and Moses and Jesus the Shamans, Mediums. Among other things, Moses and Jesus the Shamans talks about the politically orientated biblical mistranslations condemning mediumship. Yet, in the ancient world, the ancient Hebrews and ancient Jews consulted seers as a national tradition. They call them seers, prophets, dream interpreters, judges, oracles, and it was to learn spiritual wisdom and predictive guidance. But the Orthodox Church, for political reasons, put in biblical mistranslations that are in the Bibles today in the 21st century, and these Orthodox mistranslations led to the 16th and 17th century witch hunts. Thousands were killed and tortured, and even today in the 21st century, many people are fearful or critical of the spiritual gift of mediumship. So Moses and Jesus the Shamans, it's encyclopaedic on mediumship, and it tries to set the record straight. And Proof Animals Have Souls, a second of my 3 books, talks of the vegetarianism of the ancient world, including the evidence for the vegetarianism of Jesus and James the Just, his brother. The latter was almost written out of history, despite him leading the first followers of Jesus after Jesus' crucifixion from Jerusalem for many years. So there's much evidence in the second book, Proof Animals Have Souls, of Jesus and James the Just's vegetarianism since birth. Today I'm introducing Kathryn Gorman Lovelady, a First Nations elder and licensed minister and moderator of an Indigenous interfaith spiritual charity. She trained in parapsychology and psychology at university and worked as a spiritualist minister for a number of years. She had 11 years of shamanic training, and 42 years she's been the director of Moonstar Lodge in the Georgian Bay area of Ontario, Canada. She provides Indigenous art, spirituality and education services with her husband Brian, and weekly channeled readings on YouTube. Kathryn's email is Kathryn with a Y, Kathryn, Kathryn at moonstarlodge.com. Her website is moonstarlodge.com, but these will be in the blog at the end. So welcome to the show, Kathryn.
Thank you.
I've got a number of questions, and we'll see how many we can get through, and probably we'll end up having another interview at another time because there's such a lot to ask you. Would you like to explain to the audience, because it goes out to different countries, what a First Nations elder is and of what tribe you're from?
Well, when Columbus came, he incorrectly called us Indians, thinking he was in the Far East. We are actually considered First Nations and Indigenous peoples. My tribe is Algonquin, which is under the Anishinaabe umbrella of peoples in Central North America.
Oh, that's interesting. Thank you. You're a medium, so what are your earliest memories of mediumship?
I communicated with angels as a very small child, and I assumed prior to getting into school that everybody talked with angels, and it was when I got into school and experiences in hospital that I recognized that not all spirits were angels, that there were other kinds and types, and I always saw animal spirits as a small child. My father took me into the woods many times to teach me the traditions, our traditional Algonquin ways of looking at spirits, and so I developed connections sort of consecutively, first with angels, then with people, animals, and so on, up until high school. I had a couple of experiences of a precognitive nature that I shared. It was about a car accident with a locker mate, and unfortunately, I was ridiculed and laughed at until 6 months later when it happened, which set me into a very difficult position. As a teenager, I don't think it was, I know it wasn't something that I very much appreciated. So when a situation like that came up the next year, which I think was grade 12 here in Canada, I didn't tell the person, and when they died, that set up a tremendous guilt that perhaps I could have prevented it. So by the time I got to university, it was very much paramount for me that I get some analysis and some training, and that's where my university training in parapsychology came. I wanted the science. I didn't want any religious connection with it. I simply wanted the science to understand how to control it if I was going to. And that turned out to be, mercifully, the thing which happened in 7 years of that training.
That's interesting. Parapsychology in the UK still is in its infancy, but mostly it takes experiences to be hallucinations and chemicals in the brain, and it tends to try to explain so many experiences away. But in America, I believe, and Canada, it seems to be different. So would you say you are psychic as well as mediumistic?
That's correct.
So how did you develop your mediumship over the years?
Well, the training at university was exceptional in terms of understanding the clairvoyance, the clairaudience, the clairsentience. In the years I was at university, it had been taught at McGill, which is in Montreal, in Quebec, but it was very much modeled on the American Duke University and UCLA in California. So there was some very progressive utilizing computers in the early days, but certainly transatlantic work with other universities in terms of doing modeling experiments in clairvoyance, clairaudience, claircognizance, clairolfaction, psychokinesis, that sort of thing. The Russians were big on this in the 70s and 80s when I was going to university, so there was a fairly competitive field on our side of the pond.
Yes.
So that's how I trained. And after university, I was approached by the Spiritualist Church, which I really didn't want to be involved with because in North America, Indigenous people just simply have not had good experiences with church. Certainly it was something I was very cautious of, but the temptation for me was their training with some Scottish mediums, which I did.
Yes.
And then I went through that whole process with the Spiritualist Church of being a student minister and healing, and then you become a licensed minister, and then you're registered with the government to perform services. But once the laws in Canada changed to allow Indigenous people to legally perform ceremonies, I transferred my license out of the Spiritualist Church because in Indigenous culture, speaking with ancestors and acknowledging spirits is a common everyday thing. So this was something I wished to continue at that time. The shamanism training is, again, another way of performing healing ceremonies within a cultural perspective. So I did 11 years of training up north, and I exchanged nursing experience with the elders and the communities there. So that's how I trained. It was about 20 years of training in all.
That's excellent. Do you see, sense, hear spirit animals?
All the time. We actually had, Brian and I had a farm for 10 years, and we had an animal sanctuary, and our farm was the place that people brought the three-legged dogs and the abandoned and the abused, and we worked with these animals. And because the university we both graduated from in Guelph is very highly well known for its agricultural and veterinary training, we worked together with veterinarians, and we still do actually work with veterinarians. We don't have the farm at this point, but yeah, people brought us alpacas and llamas and blind racehorses and all kinds of things. So being able to communicate with these animals and help them learn to trust again and get them well, this was a big part of our journey.
That sounds wonderful. And you also mentioned before the show that you've also helped people find missing animals. Yes, I have. Part of our university work was working with local police agencies and things, and so we would be given, an animal's collar or a child's bloody running shoe or that kind of thing. It was pretty ghastly, actually. When you're a young person in university, it's pretty eye-opening. But yeah, we've done a lot of that, helping people. Animals that my own dog was abducted at one point, and we were able to get it back. It was taken probably 4 hours away from. It was a little Yorkie poodle, and we got it back in less than 72 hours. Because well, thank God you got it back, because to me, animals should all have rights, and rights to safety as well. And to me, that's kidnap. Absolutely. It is the same as a kidnap, and it's a pet becomes part of the family. So it must have been devastating for you. Do you ever see and interpret auric colours, or is that not your field?
No, that's all the time. That's part of our indigenous tradition. We see the aura. We work with hands-on healing. We work with plants, crystals, things of the earth to help a person or an animal, because animals have chakric points too. We work with the chakras and utilize the expansion of the aura to be the best it can be.
Lovely. We've only got around about 2 minutes left, and with so much more to talk about, but I thought perhaps in the last couple of minutes you might be able to give something of a spiritual message you might want to share with listeners.
Well, we just had the full moon of the 10th moon cycle just yesterday on the 14th, and this weaves the web, the grandmother of this moon cycle, and she reminds us that we are all connected in this grand web of life. And what I do on my little corner of this great web of life vibrationally impacts everything around me. So compassion, love, caring are all the attributes that we should strive for as people to keep our vibration high and help people and animals, plants, the earth, climate change, all those things. So I think my message is to strive for compassion and strive for connection.
Well, thank you. Did a particular event start you on your spiritual path?
I think it's just the angels, working with the angels. They were always trying to get this timid little child to strive harder, and I think it was angels that did it.
How many different angels would you say that you saw? And in the last minute, are you able to give any type of description that we could probably follow up in another interview?
The angels that come to me now come in something that they call the Legion of Light. They're not like beings with wings. They're more energy forms now. When I was very small, they had wings, and they tried to look like storybook angels, but as I've grown up, and I'm now in my 60s, they don't look like that anymore. They more these great energy balls of light, and they vary in color depending on the kind and type of angel that they are. And there are very distinct differences in the kinds and types of angels.
Well, that might be something we should discuss in another interview, because time has run out and it's run so quickly today. So thank you very much, Kathryn, and we'll speak together again soon. Thank you for attending today.
It's been a blessing and a pleasure, and thank you to Tony as well.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye.